motion?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, when you're ready.
Good evening, Your Honor. The defense asks that the court grant our motion to exclude the photo marked as Exhibit A, which Detective Sachs unlawfully took while searching Mr. Fromholz's laptop. The issue before the court involves a violation of Mr. Fromholz's Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches and seizures, and is applied to states courts through the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. This violation occurred because third-party Mitchell allowed Detective Sachs to view the content of my client's personal laptop despite Mitchell having no valid third-party authority. There was no actual authority, no apparent authority, nor did the totality of circumstances known to the detective at the time allude to such authority. Between Mitchell inviting Detective Sachs into Mr. Fromholz's room and Mitchell stopping halfway through typing the password, the situation remained unambiguous. However, when Mitchell stopped typing the password halfway and gave Detective the shh sign, ambiguity was quickly created, as this sign is usually used by someone to admit conscious wrongdoing. The interpretation of the sign can be supported by Mitchell on page 45, lines 24 to 26 with, "That's why I made the sign. I don't think Haley knew that I knew the new password." Mitchell's statement also reveals how Mitchell dubiously found out the new password. After my client changed passwords, Mitchell wasn't told the new password. By looking over my client's shoulder purposely when hanging out with my client, Mitchell was consciously memorizing the new password when my client was typing it, and without Mr. Fromholz's knowledge. Going back to the side, an ambiguous discovery like this is relevant, as in United States v. Purcell, 526 Fed 3rd at 953 establishes when a situation starts as unambiguous but subsequent discoveries create ambiguity, any apparent authority evaporates. In order to reestablish apparent authority, it was necessary for Detective Sachs to resolve the ambiguity before relying on said authority to continue searching, as established in United States v. Griswold, number 9 CR 6174, where an officer is presented with ambiguous facts related to authority, he or she has a duty to investigate further before relying on the consent.
Is there anything in the facts to suggest that your client told the third party that he could no longer access the computer?
May you repeat the question,
Sure.
Your Honor?
Is there anything to suggest that your client told Mr. Williams that he could no longer access the computer after he changed the password?
You're speaking of Mr. Mitchell, of
Sorry,
course.
Mr. Mitchell.
May you repeat the question?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, listen. So, at some point, Mr. Mitchell, your client changed the password.
Yes.
And sometime before that, Mr. Mitchell knew the password, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And he was given that password by your client at one point.
Yes, Your Honor.
And your client gave him permission at least to, in some form or fashion, access the computer at one point, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Was there any point subsequent to that, understanding your client changed the password, that he affirmatively represented to the witness that he can no longer access the computer?
Yes, Your Honor. When Mr. Fromholz changed passwords, Mr. Fromholz chose not to tell Mitchell the new one, asserting a greater expectation of privacy over it, as he would have, Mr. Fromholz would have not expected for Mitchell to be able to access the computer, his personal computer. On top of this, Mitchell had found out that he was locked out of Mr. Fromholz's laptop when one time Mitchell tried to type in the old password, but it wasn't accepted. So Mitchell clearly knew that he no longer had access to Mr. Fromholz's laptop. May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yet, despite Detective Sachs admitting in their own witness statement on page 38, lines 20 to 21, with Mitchell halfway through entering the password, did pause to hold their index finger to their mouse, which I took to indicate shh. And as you can see, Your Honor, Detective Sachs was able to get a meaning out of Mitchell's use of nonverbal communication. And yet, despite this, Detective Sachs recklessly continued the search of Mr. Fromholz's laptop without any valid third-party consent, as United States v. Purcell also held apparent authority cannot exist if there is ambiguity as to the asserted authority, and the searching officers do not take steps to resolve the ambiguity.
What more should the detective have done?
Your Honor, there are 3 different ways that Detective Sachs could have and should have done to resolve the ambiguity. Yet, however, Detective Sachs didn't do it. Number 1, Detective Sachs could have and should have should have asked for further clarification from Mitchell. Number 2, Detective Sachs could have stopped the search and left and gone through the courts and gained a search warrant as stated by the Fourth Amendment. And number 3, Detective Sachs could have waited for Mr. Fromholz to return from their short walk. It wouldn't be unreasonable or hindering to the search if Detective Sachs had just waited for Mr. Fromholz to return. After all, Mitchell had told Detective Sachs earlier that Mr. Fromholz was only out for a short walk, not forever. May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes.
I've already mentioned how Mitchell dubiously obtained Mr. Fromholz's new password, and since my client didn't know of this, my client would have had a clear expectation of privacy for its contents. On top of this, my client had their door shut, had the door to his own room shut. As established in the United States v. Caro, 468 U.S. 705, 725-26, courts are reluctant to approve third-party consent searches of an enclosed space in which an individual targeted has clearly manifested an expectation of exclusivity. By leaving the door closed whilst away and leaving the laptop in his room, my client clearly wished to keep the contents of his laptop private. It is also to note that Mitchell discloses on page 45, lines 7 to 8, that Haley, Mr. Fromholz, never said specifically that I could use the laptop anytime, meaning my client never consented for Mitchell to use it whenever Mitchell wanted. Finally, I would like to reiterate to the court that Detective Sachs unlawfully continued searching Mr. Fromholz's laptop despite not clearing up the ambiguity surrounding Mitchell's common authority to consent over the laptop. This is why, Your Honor, that our motion to exclude Exhibit A should be accepted. Thank you, Your Honor. That'll be all.
Realize we didn't have anyone timing.